Welcome.
You're watching
Gay TV Atlanta. Thank you for joining us for Gay TV on location. Sit back, because our next stop is Outright Bookstore and Coffee House.
We're on our way to one of this month's most talked about topics. Primetime CNN news anchor comes out in the new book, Transparent. Join Gay TV on location at Outright Bookstore and Coffee House for the book signing and the conversation with the author on the book Transparent, Mr. Don Lemon.
My name is Wesley Campbell, and I attended this event because I think that Don Lemon is a great inspiration, especially for me being a gay young male and wanting to break into the same industry that he's in. He's become like an incredible inspiration. I've seen in his book where he addressed the gay suicide issue, which is a recent documentary that I did in school, and I was terrified to do it because I thought I was going to get so much ridicule and teasing about it, but he inspired me to go through with it and continue to do what I do and turn people's heads and open people's eyes, and that's why I'm here.
Welcome to The Dawn. You have just accessed the beautiful experience. This experience will cover courtship, sex, commitment.
You're watching
Gay TV on location. So join us after our commercial break for
the book signing and the conversation with the author on the book Transparent, Mr. Don Lemon.
Live and at you, my name is Danilo Ignacio, correspondent host for Gay TV Atlanta, and we've got a great treat coming on. Next up, we're going to talk to Don Lemon and his book Transparent. Stay tuned, we got a whole lot more. We are at Outright Bookstore out here in Atlanta. Stay tuned. I'm your host, Danilo Ignacio.
Our author tonight is a multiple Emmy Award-winning journalist, a former Today Show correspondent, and one of CNN's most well-known and well-respected news anchors. In his memoir, Don Lemon takes readers behind the scenes of journalism, detailing his own struggle to become one of the most prominent African-American men in television news and inside some of the biggest stories of our times. With his clear and compelling storytelling and his rich detail of a journalist, Don Lemon reveals his own painful journey from a little boy who dreamed of broadcasting in segregated Baton Rouge in the early 70s to his current perch at CNN. Oh, and along the way, he announced that he is gay. Never one to stop at the surface of the story, Lemon digs deep, exposing his own history with family secrets and painful revelations, and explains how those painful early experiences shaped his ambitions and gave him the tools of empathy and fearlessness that he brings to his work. In the book, he turns to the news industry itself, taking the stories he's covered: September 11th, the DC snipers, AIDS in Africa, Hurricane Katrina, the death of Michael Jackson, and the election of Barack Obama. Now, when Don finished this book, or as he was writing the book, he couldn't decide whether he was going to come out of the closet in the book. And about that time came the story of Tyler Clementi. Tyler was a young man, a student at Rutgers, who killed himself after it was revealed that he was gay. And that one incident got so many people alert that they really need to come out, and Don Lemon is one of them. So please welcome out to Outright, Don Lemon.
You guys here on the right now? Chelsea is not till July. Oh my God. Wow, thank you guys.
That's right.
I cannot believe this. My friends, hey Reggie and Phil, say hi. Hello. These are my running buddies right there. Can you believe this?
Yes.
Yes. I am so thrilled. Every time I've gone, this is my third or fourth book signing, and every time I'm so thrilled that people show up and are interested enough. Seriously, from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Are you guys, I was worried about the rain, were you? No. We're going to come anyways?
Yeah.
Yes? That's what they make umbrellas for. People on Twitter were like, Oh, the rain clouds just moved in Atlanta. I guess I'll have to see Don Lemon another time. But what would you guys like to know about the process? I'll ask questions. Are you going to tell you about the process of writing this book? All right, so listen, I was approached by an author, not an author, a publishing company after I did a panel at Morehouse University called Black Men in the Age of Obama. And it's this young guy, he's in his 20s and he's a millionaire, I hate him. And he said, I think you have a book in you. And I went, what? You know, what are you talking about? Am I fat? What's going on? He said, I think you have a book in you. And I said, okay, well, and he said, do you want to write a book? And I said, no, Far, it's not time yet. I'm not, you know, I haven't reached a level where I can write a book. So what I realized is that what I was doing to myself was what other people did to me when they didn't want to be bothered. They told me no, right? Hey, I'd like to do this project. No. I'd like to go on this story. No. I have an idea. No. And that means that they don't want to be bothered, right? Or they don't find what you find interesting enough to pay enough attention to become absorbed in it or to say yes. So then I realized I was doing to myself what people do to me when they don't want to be bothered. I was telling myself no. And so I said, okay, fine. I'll write your darn, that's not what I said. I'll write the darn book. You can imagine what I said. And so I started writing the book, and it's for HCI, which is a publishing arm of Chicken Soup for the Soul, you know what I'm talking about? Which are great books. They're great books. But I said, I started writing it, I'm always the first one in the office. And I'm like, no, I'm not, I'm always late. I'm on CP time. And then I was like, I'm always the last one to leave. Well, that's true. I'm always the last one to leave, but I'm not always the first one in the office. I'm always the one who has pretty much, not always, a lot of the times, the idea that's like people go, oh my gosh, and you know where that comes from? That comes from being gay. To having that idea where people go, where the hell did that come from? It came from my little creative mind when I had to be a kid and I isolated myself and I would create, friends in my head. I had these two friends when I was a kid called Skeeter and Squirto, and Skeeter was my girlfriend, and Squirto was my cousin's girlfriend, and my cousin and I were a month apart, and we would go and we would get dressed, and we'd go on dates, and we'd ask him out, and they had this pretend house, which was my grandparents' shit. So anyway, I was crazy. But that's where that sort of creative side came from. So I started writing the book, and I said, this isn't what I want to write about. And I was having trouble. And by the way, you guys heard from Ben. Ben is my boyfriend. And he is stuck on the tarmac in LaGuardia in New York. Because there's a ground stoppage in Atlanta. But I just texted him and he didn't say anything. So maybe he's in the air somewhere. He might be here by the end. But I was like, Ben, what am I going to do? And even Reggie, and I'm like, I'm writing a book. And Reggie felt like, what? I'm like, yeah, I'm writing a book. So I started trying to write this book, and it's like, it wasn't interesting. Nothing I wrote was interesting. And so the book collaborator came down, and we went to, what's the place over here on Howe Mill, the breakfast place? West Egg. We went to West Egg and met. She was staying in a hotel over there. And I said, this is really too impersonal. I want you to come to my house, and I'm going to cook you breakfast, and I'm going to make you coffee, and I'm going to tell you about my life. So she came over, Ben was there, and we ended up having breakfast, and then she's like, what do you like to do? And I'm like, let's get in the car, we're going to Bloomingdale's. And so, so between breakfast and Bloomingdale's, we came up with it. She goes, well, where did you grow up? I said, I grew up in this little town right outside of Baton Rouge. It's West Baton Rouge. It's called Port Allen. And I said, it was right in the shadow of my grandparents had sugarcane trucks and an ice house. And there was a sugarcane, there's a Steens, or one of the sugarcane companies, sugar factories was right in the shadow of my town. So you could smell them making syrup and taking sugar and taking sugar cane and making it into sugar. So in the summer you could smell that. You could smell the tar on it. It was so hot. You could smell the tar on the roads melting and the tar on the roof melting. And you could smell, like when you got near a river or a lake or whatever, you could smell the fish. I mean, Louisiana is very lush. And she looked at me, her name is Karen, she's in the book if you look under the things. And she said, well, why don't you start there? And I went, God, you're brilliant, thank you. So that's what I started writing. I said, Louisiana is a place like this where you can smell the fish and that the tar melts and that, I could smell the sugar cane and it had this sort of odor to it. And I started writing that, and then it became cathartic because I started writing about my childhood. And I started writing about my abuser, about being molested as a kid. And as I started writing these things, it became truly cathartic. And I said, as I started writing them, And I started reading them back, and I would cry, and Ben would look at me and cry, and then he'd laugh at me and say, "You're crazy," and I'd say, "I know, but it just felt so good." And then I would go into sort of this depression, like, should I be revealing this information? And I'd read it back again, and I'd say, this is a book that I would want to read. This is a book that would have helped me as a young man. This is a book that would have helped me to overcome that depression and that sadness and that fear that I had about my molester. And so I started writing that, and then I got through the whole thing up until college, and then I said, what am I going to do about this gay thing, right? What am I going to do? If this book is supposed to be inspirational, it's supposed to be about my life, and I'm supposed to be encouraging people, then my own story, I think, is the best example of that, because I had challenges growing up, and I still have challenges. And I said, so in order to encourage people, I need to be truthful. I had been a gay man for as long as I can remember, and I was a gay child before that. And I had been pretty successful at being that person and pretty happy at it. So I said, you know what, I'm going to include it. But I don't want it to be a big revelation. At first I was like, and I have to say that I am gay. And then the collaborator's like, that's really not the kind of person that you are. And I said, you know what, you're right. Because in my personal life, I'm out. You know, every Memorial Day I go to Pensacola with my friends. We don't go to the big parties. We just call ourselves the Fringe Boys, because we all rent a house and we just sit in the house and eat, and then go and swim, and then we go to Key West. We've been going to Key West for 2 years. So in my personal life, I've been out. I've lived in Chelsea, but I had never said it.
We've got a lot more at Don Lemon's book signing for his book, Transparent. So stay tuned for more Gay TV on location.
Welcome to the Dawn. You have just accessed the beautiful experience. This experience will cover courtship, sex, commitment.
You're watching Gay TV Atlanta.
Welcome.
So in my personal life, I've been out. I've lived in Chelsea, but I had never said it. I had never talked about it in a public way. I never talked about it on the air before. And so as I was thinking about it, I realized that there was a certain deception in silence. Because people are always going to project onto you what they think you should be. So there are women and men and people who are watching at home who are saying, oh, that's a guy, now I want my daughter to marry someone like him. And I'm sure if he's not married, if he is married, he's got 2.5 kids and he drives a Volvo or an SUV. And people are thinking that. And that's dishonest in a way, because it doesn't show people that gay people are normal in a sense, and can be successful, and can be journalists, or can be CEOs, or can be a bus driver, or can be whomever. And besides, someone who's flamboyant, and it's okay. I love my flamboyant friends. I have my Nelly friends, my Queen friends, or whatever, but we are multifaceted as gay people. And I thought that, you know what, there needs to be someone like me. You know, I can girl out and queen out in front of my friends and do whatever, but for the most part, no, seriously, right? Right? Let's just be real. It's the same thing as like when you don't go to work and you don't go, please, at work, you know? Why did you do that? Am I lying? You can't be really black at work like that. You can't say the word or whatever. And I can't be on the air like I do Resident Evil when I'm like, we are not. You can't do that. So I just figured, you know what, it's time to be real. So I said, you know what? I'm going to put it in there. I told the publisher, he said, be careful, you have a reputation to uphold. You work for the most powerful news organization in the world, so you got to watch. And I said, okay, all right, I can take it out at any time. And so I put the manuscript together, and right as I was finishing the manuscript, Tyler Clementi jumped off the bridge, and I said, damn it, what is going on? And there have been so many Tyler Clementis. I use Tyler Clementi as a personal story, but Tyler Clementi also represents the thousands, if not millions, of young people who are dealing with their sexuality and who are being ostracized and who are being told that they're an abomination and they're going to go to hell and whatever. And I have never done anything that I know of, except maybe I broke a few hearts that's going to get me into hell. But people have broken my heart too, so you know, I don't think they're going to go to hell for it. It was good for me. It made me stronger. So I said, why would I go to hell? Why should anybody go to hell because of who they choose to live their life with, or who they choose to have as a partner, or what they choose to be, as long as you are not doing anything that is detrimental to society and to someone else. And so I said, leave it in there. And the hardest thing about writing this whole book, quite honestly, wasn't putting it down on paper. It was hitting the send button to send to my employer so that they could have that much information about me. Because my mom said, you don't always tell everything. You don't want people to know everything about you. Well, guess what? They still don't know everything about you. You know, okay? So that's why I keep a personal phone and a business phone. So they still don't know everything about me. So, and I said, you know, it's okay, because at a certain point you realize you have to be an example. Not that I set out to do that. I said, you know what, I'm going to do this. And so my mom came to visit for Christmas. You remember the Christmas tree? She did. We had the blue Christmas tree. She was like, that is so ugly. I don't like that tree, right? Am I lying?
And you said it was a gay Christmas tree.
Is that what that's what I said?
No, you said that to excuse it, and she said, that is ugly.
And then she said she really loved it after a while. She got used to having an all blue Christmas tree. My boyfriend, who is Jewish, said that it was a Hanukkah bush. So, by the way, I'm a citizen of the world. I hope you guys don't have anything against dating someone outside of your race. I don't care what color you are. I don't care who you are, what size you are. If you like me and I like you, hey, we can get out. I don't care. That's how I am. So I have had black boyfriends, Asian boyfriends, black girlfriends, Asian girlfriends, Hispanic. I've had I am like the United Nations. So my mom came for Christmas, and we were reading the manuscript, and it was so funny. It's like, I guess it's not. We were reading about childhood, and we cried reading certain parts of the manuscript, and about when my father died, and how I found out how my dad was my dad. But when my father died, we were crying about how the whole thing went down, and then we just had the biggest laugh riot moment when we remembered, and it's in the book, how my grandmother, who I didn't know, knew who my dad was. I don't know if you read the book. And she said it, and then we just started laughing, and she said, baby, say it. I'm not ashamed of you. I'm so proud of you. There's nothing that you can do to embarrass me, and I'm not embarrassed about anything that I've done. She goes, we are just like any other American family. So she said, if you're okay with it, go for it. Right. So my mom supports me, and having said all that, I'm going to get to the end very quickly. I'm going to get to the end, wrap it up here in a second. Having said all that, I could not have done this without the support of my family, without the support of friends, and I couldn't have done it without the support of you guys. To be quite honest with you guys, I didn't think that I would have any support in the gay community, or not much. Because I don't look like the guy on the cover of Out magazine. I'm not a muscle boy. I mean, I'm in shape. I work out with a trainer. You know, you got to keep up appearances, right? But I didn't think that, you know, I'm not the blonde-haired, blue-eyed prototype of a gay guy. And so I thought that I would tell my friends who were very high-profile gay men who work for, you know, HRC and for GLAAD and all these people, I would tell them, why would anybody care? I typically go to events that are gay events, and I'm either one, or I'm a handful, or either the only African American or the only person of color in the room. And so even in our own community, I feel that we need to address diversity and discrimination, because we are not as open-minded as we think we are. So I didn't think I'd have any support. So anytime I see people, especially the gay community, I've been pleasantly surprised, overwhelmingly positively surprised. So when I see you guys come out and I see you guys support the book, then I say thank you and amen. Thank you, Jesus. So, what I will say though, and this isn't self-serving, I hope that this book becomes a bestseller in some way, and not just for me, but because I think it's important for companies, for organizations, for corporations to realize that their diversity means a lot more than black and white, man, woman. There should be a diversity of voices in every single company in the world, especially let's start here in America, and we can start here in Atlanta if you want to. But there should be a diversity of voices, and that means out and proud gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender people should be part of that diversity equation. And if this book sells, it shows people that there is an interest in that, right? This book is registered on Nielsen, just like the ratings for my program. And so that's how we judge whether or not people are interested in the products that we sell. So I say buy them for your friends, your uncle, your aunt, your cousin, Ray Ray, Sinead, Shaniqua, Chelsea, Barbie, Brittany, everybody. Go buy it. And just to support, not necessarily me, but support our cause, to support gay people. It's very, very important in this day and age, especially when we have things that's what's happening in New York and it's Gay Pride Month. But anyway, thank you so much. I will answer any question. Nothing is off limit. The book is called Transparent for a reason. And again, give yourselves a big round of applause. And send your cards out. Not only is CNN, but any organization or any company who supports out and proud.
We've got a lot more at Don Lemon's book signing for his book Transparent.
Hello, welcome to the Dawn, playground for the new power generation.
So I say you can call 404-827-1500, ask for viewer, hit 0 and ask for viewer services and leave that comment on the comment line. Thank you very much for that. You know, I was on the radio this morning. Everywhere I've been, you know, I'm not going to have an argument with someone about the Bible. But I will tell you that religious doctrine and the church has been used for a long time to discriminate against a whole lot of people, and not just gay people. It started with women. It started with people of color, at least here in this country. And what I say, and this is my message, and you can choose, you can steal it if you like, if you want to. You can borrow it and tell people. But I think you always have to be true in who you are, and you always have to be a gentleman. You don't have to yell at someone. And the moment you walk away from someone and start yelling, say, I can't talk to you because you feel this way, then you've lost your power of negotiation and your influence. So what I will say to people is that the scriptures have been used to discriminate against black people for slavery and during the civil rights movement for segregation. They've been used to subjugate women and children as well. And so I think that we, especially in America, have collectively agreed and come to a place where it's not okay to discriminate against women, to discriminate against African Americans or Hispanics or any minority. And so I think now we are at a point where we've evolved, and we should collectively agree that it's not okay to discriminate against gay people. And so you can't pick and choose which doctrines or which teachings are going to be the most detrimental for someone. You can't say, well, you can't eat meat. Well, that's all right. You can't say that you can't have gluttony. Well, that's okay. You can't say, well, you can't wear this clothing. That's an abomination. That's okay. So when it comes to teachings about gay people, you say, well, yeah, it's okay. You can't pick and choose that. So I think you have to be on point and know your history if you're going to talk about that, and know that the same things that are used to discriminate against a certain group of people are used to discriminate against gay people, and we are just picking and choosing which ones we want to use to discriminate against a certain group, and it's not okay. But I also think, and I know this, that your power is in your dollar. And so if you choose to support a place like this bookstore, right, instead of going to a place where that may not have a good record when it comes to diversity and hiring people, gay people, people of color, whomever, women. You can choose to support organizations that help people who are gay. You can choose to put your influence behind those companies and behind those organizations, and you have to be able, I gave you that number jokingly, but I'm serious, you have to be able to call, write, email those places and say, hey, this is not right. We're not going to stand for discrimination. And in your own daily life, you have to just walk in truth and be who you are. And if somebody knows a gay person, it's going to make it a lot easier for them not to discriminate.
Deal with your child's sexual abuse. There's a lot of us, 1 in 6 boys in this country, 1 in 4 girls, before they're 18. There's a lot of us in here who have dealt with that, and some of us not in a real good way.
Well, there's an organization called 1 in 6 that recently I put on their board and I'm considering. It's a great organization, but they estimate that it's actually probably more than 1 in 6. I don't know, people, I get that question at every single signing. I don't know how, except for maybe it was just the grace of God, or who knows why someone can come from poverty and one person becomes a doctor or the president and the other person goes to prison or becomes a drug dealer. I don't know. But I knew from a very young age that I wanted to accomplish something. And I had never lived in a box. I've never lived in a black box. I've never lived in a gay box. Don't laugh at that term. I've never lived in a gay box or any sort of box where people thought that I should be a certain way. And not that I would want that to happen to any child, to have to be molested. And there was at one point, I'm sure each of us in this room would have traded being gay so that you could have a normal life and you wouldn't have to deal with those issues. I wouldn't trade it now because it's made me who I am. But I think that because of those things, that I broke out of that shell at a very early age and realized that I could survive without living in a box. That I could survive certain things, like being molested and having the fear of some people finding out, or my molester telling my parents that he did it because I wanted to do it. That's what they tell you, right? I'll just tell them that you wanted to do it. So I just think that, I don't know how I turned that around. I just think I became, as I said, I isolated myself. I became very creative at a young age. And I chose a different outlet rather than drugs or alcohol or any of that stuff. I mean, I still have the vestiges of being molested as a young person, but I'm aware of them because I went to therapy in my early 20s to deal with it. I don't know how it happened. I just think maybe I was lucky, and maybe, I think by the time I was 12 or 13 or 14 years old, my parents moved out of that community, and then it took me away from my molester, and I was just lucky enough to have survived that. But I really think the gay part, the creative part, the awareness from being gay kind of helped me overcome that. I don't know if I had not been gay, I don't know if I would have had the same sort of thing. I don't know. I'm not a straight person, so I don't know. I just know as a gay man, I'm very creative, and that I sometimes live in a fantasy world, and that has helped me out, helped me deal with a lot of things. I know it sounds crazy, but it's true.
You're watching Gay TV Atlanta.
Welcome to the Dawn.
You're watching
Gay TV Atlanta.
Welcome.
Welcome to the Dawn. You have just accessed the beautiful experience.
You came out about that issue covering Bishop Eddie Long. Was that off the cuff, or did that was that just natural off the cuff? You decided at that moment.
Yeah.
Because that was really impressive.
Because I'm not a person who's on television who's like, so it says here you went to the University of Georgia. Oh, and you're 28 years old. I don't do that. I sit and have a conversation, and my producers will put questions in there, and they'll say, you don't need that. You're going to go where you want to go. I'll just go, great, yes. So, because I do. Because I'm having a conversation with you. And so if you say something, instead of looking for the next question, which a lot of people do, I'm listening to you. And I'm looking at your face and your facial expressions. So when I'm playing a clip sometimes from people who are entertainers or whomever, leaders or celebrities, as they're watching the clip of themselves, I'm looking at them. So I'll say, that was pain on your face when you were looking at that. Why? And so when those 3 young people said, oh, the bishop doesn't look like this, and I said, listen, I hope the bishop is not guilty. I'm not saying anything about innocence or guilt. But people aren't always who they present themselves to be in public. No one walks around with an M on their forehead for molester, or an A for abuser, or a P for pedophile. No one does that. So you have to be aware of the milkman, if there are any, the bus driver, the uncle, the stepdad, the preacher, the teacher, the choir director, the coach. You've got to be aware of everyone and don't think that someone looks like a certain thing. And that's where that came from. And I said, you know what, I've never said this on national television. I didn't tell my mom until I was 30. Someone today told me they didn't tell their parents until they were 20 years old. I was someone I was on the radio with. And so that's where that came from. And it was just an off-the-cuff statement. I'm glad I said it because I literally, you guys have seen the things in my kitchen, right, of the responses have you seen those? No? They're like this big from people who responded saying, thank you for liberating me, thank you for freeing me. I had the courage to tell my parents, and I had never told them. I had the courage to tell my wife, I had the courage to tell my husband. I was abused by my nanny, I was abused by a man, I was abused by a woman, and no one ever talks about this. So I'm glad I said it.
All right, carrying on from that, I don't know if you can answer this or not, but now that that has ended, how do you feel about?
Oh, about what?
The Eddie Long situation.
How do I feel about it?
Because I was watching live when you brought that up. So I'm saying, and with you being in your position, I don't know if you can answer right now.
That aired one time, and usually everything I do will repeat. They're like, that is not repeating. So that aired once. A lot of people were watching. My mom said she fell off the bed. She had to go outside and have a cigarette. I really, honestly, I don't have a feeling about it. I'll tell you a story. Like some people say, oh, I think he's innocent or guilty. I have my own personal thing. I'm not going to say that in public. I said to an interviewer yesterday or the day before, I think it was the day before, I said, wouldn't it be nice, I'm not saying that he should, but wouldn't it be nice if someone had that platform to bring light to that subject and used it in a proper way to do it? Wouldn't that be wonderful to talk about that? That's the only way I feel about that. And so I'm an accidental out gay person now. I'm an accidental person who had been molested sort of role model. And so if you're an accidental person in any sort of way, I think the best way to overcome it is to take that tragedy and to turn it into your own personal story. So imagine if our politicians got caught in things and didn't lie about it and said, yeah, I did it. You'd be like, wow, that's refreshing. Maybe that person should keep their job. They're human. Imagine if someone said, yeah, none of these people were underage, and I had an issue that I couldn't talk about it, or this was not an issue for me, but this is certainly something we need to talk about and embrace as a society. Imagine if someone used their platform for that, how much good would come out of it. That's the only thing I'll say about that.
We'll be right back with more of CNN's anchor Don Lemon as he continues conversation on coming out in his book, Transparent. Stay tuned.
You're watching
Gay TV Atlanta.
Well, I want to thank you. You know, I have a straight son, and sometimes...
I'm sorry, how do you deal with this? Not everybody can be gay.
He is my favorite person.
I'm just, I'm joking.
My best friend, and he says the same about me, so I'm really fortunate. Sometimes gay, sometimes straight daughter. But I want to thank you.
That's okay.
You know, I've fought the fight, came out when I was 55, left my wife after 25 years, and my kids have adjusted, my son has, to my being gay. But your coming out is helping all these young people, and if one young person reads your book and doesn't feel like he's going to hell or whatever, it's worth all that trouble you went to. And I want to change the subject and ask you if you have fun interviewing people like Rick Santorum.
I have fun interviewing everyone. I mean, I love what I do. I mean, I absolutely love it. I mean, who wouldn't, really? I mean, come on. I complain, I'm like, oh my gosh. It was funny, I missed my flight, my 4 o'clock flight from New York, because there was traffic. And they put me on standby on the 5. And I had a reserved seat on the 6. And so I made the standby, and then I'm sitting just a couple rows from Nene Leakes. And so I tweet, Nene goes, I thought that was you, but you look like a little boy with that backpack on and that baseball cap. And I said, I didn't recognize you, and we're talking. I'm like, I'm sitting here, we're talking to Nene, this is crazy. And so I tweeted it, and this guy tweets back, and he goes, rich man tweet. And I went, you know what, I'm not a rich man, but you have to be aware of, you know what I'm saying? You have to count your blessings, because no matter how bad you think you're having it, I missed my flight, I'm tired, oh my gosh, I gotta go to New Hampshire, and I gotta get on that damn bus, and I gotta do all this. There's someone who has something worse. So I love it. The thing about interviewing people like Rick Santorum now, I know that it's gonna be a lightning rod. Because as an out gay journalist, I know that people are gonna pick up on that headline. I can say, it's so good to see you, Mr. Santorum. And somebody would write, Don Lemon, gay anchor, is friends with Rick Santorum. So you can't really win, right? And so I interviewed Rick Santorum. I called him up, and I called this person up. I said, I know Rick is in town. I want to interview him before the debate, blah, blah, blah. And they said, okay, he's headed to the airport. You got to get there fast because his flight. So he waited. He was very kind, and he waited. And as we were talking, he started telling me his stances on gay people and gay rights and marriage and changing the Constitution, which I thought was a fair question to ask him about since he wants to be president and he wants to change the Constitution. I said, some people may think it's contradictory because you believe in smaller, limited government, yet you want to intervene on people's personal lives by changing the Constitution. Is that a contradiction? And he said, it's not. And he started talking about gay people. And it just went through my head. It's like, if you can have views like that about gay people, do you know and love any gay people? So the thing, it just popped out of my head. I was like, do you have any gay friends? And he goes on starts talking about his gay friends, and I'm thinking, you know, as I started laughing, I was like, you know how people say they have black friends, but they're still not, they say And so we had a nice conversation about it, and he was like, well, you know, I was just with a gay friend the other day, and yeah, I have gay friends and gay employees, and I stood up, so he was sort of making himself out to be a gay rights sort of, and I'm like, wait, what's going on here? And I knew some people were going to pick up on it as Don Lemon goes after Rick Santorum. Well, I didn't really go after him. I didn't ask him the question any differently than I would have asked him a month ago before I came out. Because I was doing the same thing. I hold people's feet to the fire regardless. But I think now people are paying more attention to it, so I really have to be on my game. So I love interviewing people like Rick Santorum. I love interviewing, you know, anyone. I love interviewing the president. And but Rick is, you know, interesting.
Outright Bookstore and Coffee House features not only GLBT literature, but a wide array of great books in fiction, politics, style, entertaining, plus a whole lot more, like the best CDs and DVDs, ebooks, cards, and gifts. So visit them online or in person. Outright Bookstore and Coffee House.
Welcome to the Dawn. You've just accessed the beautiful experience. This experience will cover courtship, sex, commitment.
Hey, everybody all together. Hey! That's not gay.
Working in HIV prevention, I fell in love with the piece with you trying to do the HIV prevention in Chicago and the other cities that you were in, and ultimately going to the continent of Africa and uploading it on a dial-up modem. What do you do today, like here at home in Atlanta and nationwide for HIV prevention?
Well, the only thing I can do is through my work, is through this book. And when we had the 30th anniversary recently of HIV/AIDS, the first case, I made sure that I got the AIDS quote on the air, that I brought awareness to that. I made sure that I got The Normal Heart on the air, which is a play about Larry Kramer and the person who started ACT UP. I don't know if anyone has seen The Normal Heart, but if you don't cry on that play, then you're not human, right? And so I make sure that I pick and choose my moments, and that when there is a news peg, and when there is a time to do something, or there is time to draw awareness to something like HIV and AIDS, I do. And sometimes it wouldn't get on the air if it wasn't for people like me fighting for it, and other journalists, because that doesn't hit everyone's radar. And that's why I say a true diversity of voices. And that's why I'm there. That's part of why I'm there. I happen to be a gay man. That issue means something to me. And so I bring it up, and I get it on the air.
If your producer came to you and asked you to do a piece on the black gay community, what would you focus on?
Well, it would depend on what issue in the black gay. There's all kinds of issues within the black gay community. It just depends. I think the number one issue that I would focus on, there are two things I'd probably focus on in the black gay community. Number one is HIV/AIDS, because black gay men have the disease at a higher rate than most, and so do black women, heterosexual women, same thing. It's no longer really a gay disease, but black gay men, for some reasons I should say, aren't really getting the message when it comes to that. Still living on the down low, still pretending that, you know, they're not gay. When the CDC has to create a whole nother category because of down low men, then somebody's not getting the message. And so, but here's the interesting thing. If I bring that up, then people are going to say, you are throwing black people under the bus. You are throwing black gay men under the bus by bringing awareness to it. And I'm not. I'm trying to shed light on it to liberate people, but they fight you. So people do that. The same thing when I talked about homophobia in the black community. The Root and some other organization wrote, is Don Lemon throwing black people under the bus? I'm like, no, I'm just talking about the truth. So that would be number one. I would do that. When the CDC has to create a whole category that's called men who have sex with men, because people on the down low don't want to admit that they're gay and they like to have sex with men. I mean, you know what I'm saying? To me, that's called being gay. Am I wrong? So I would do that, and I would also do something probably on discrimination, and not just discrimination by the larger community, by whites in the gay community. Because I've heard people, I don't date black men, I don't date Asian men. I'm like, what? What? It's just a preference. I'm like, no, it's a preference is liking a certain feature. When you rule out a whole class, when you rule out a whole race of people, that's racist, right? So for me to say, I don't like Asian men, I don't date Asian men, that's racist. Because I don't know every Asian man. An Asian man might make me a wonderful husband, but I don't know unless I try it. So I would probably talk about that racism, but also about how black gay men need to become involved and become friendly with white gay men and whites in society who are making a difference when it comes to AIDS and HIV and issues that are important to gay people. Because I'm tired of going to these events and being one of only a few people of color. And that is their fault and our fault, because we need to be with each other, and we need to be a part. I want to be a part of this organization. You need to keep knocking on that door, and they need to reach out to minorities as well, because we're all in this together. All of us. I never heard anybody say, well, I'm not going to discriminate against him because he's white and gay. I'm not going to discriminate against him because he's black and gay. They just do it because you're gay. It doesn't matter which color you are. That's probably what I would do. Yes, sir.
I just want to first say I'm Gary without the R.
Oh no, you're Gary, but the R is silent.
That's the R is silent.
How do you know that?
We saw you at Tony and Gary and Tony want to have a baby.
Oh yeah. I had this friend, and she would ask me.
We've got a lot more at Don Lemon's book signing for his book Transparent.
You're watching
Gay TV on Location.
My name is Shamani, and I have a question for you. I'm in a profession that works with the Tyler Clemente often, and struggling to create safe space for the many Tylers. What's your word of encouragement for many of us educators who are constantly working through bureaucracy that just seems not to allow us to embrace diversity in our classrooms, in our institutions? I mean, that's probably one of the difficult fields to be in when it comes to these issues, education.
You mean working with children?
Yeah, working with other principals, other colleagues, teachers, board of directors, so that we can create a kind of safe environment for all children. I mean, what's your word of encouragement for educators?
I don't know if I'm even qualified to answer that question. I'll tell you what I did say this morning. I don't know if you guys were listening to Frank Ski and Wanda. They asked me what you tell, maybe you use this to tell those people. Someone said, Wanda said, no, Frank said, what do you do if there's a conversation you may think your child is gay, right? What do you do? And I said, well, part of having a conversation, the best part is listening, right? I said, you listen to your child, you love them no matter what, and you support them. And I think people worry about what kids are going to do, how they're going to turn out, if they're going to be flamboyant or effeminate and all of that. And I say to them, wouldn't you much rather, I said, everything that's in here, the desk, including the fabulous outfit that you're wearing, Wanda, started with a thought. And perhaps that fabulous outfit that you're wearing started with a thought from a gay man, a fabulous gay man who may have been flamboyant. Would you rather have a Versace in your family or someone who is on the down low and who is drinking too much or marries someone and is pretending to be who they aren't and ends up being depressed or getting a divorce and killing themselves, right? So I think that's sort of what you have to present to parents, to your board, to teachers, to everyone. The importance of encouraging people to be who they are, because the moment you start to thwart creativity is the moment that it all ends, because it's all about creation in some way. People say we can't procreate, but we can certainly create as gay people. So I think that's probably the best way, is to tell them a story like that. Wouldn't you much rather have kids who are who they are and who are okay with the creative process and who can contribute to the world rather than the opposite, which is the antithesis of creation? Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any comments about the Tracy Morgan comments or Kobe Bryant? They're just endless.
That's about awareness. I just turn around and say, what if they had said the N-word? What would you do? If somebody had screamed instead of the F word on a basketball court, if someone had said the N-word, like you'd be like, what's wrong with them? You can't say that. So why is it okay to say the F word? If that camera wasn't there, I would say the word because it might end up somewhere. But why is it okay? Why is it okay? I'll say, why is it okay to say fag instead of nigger? What's the difference? There is no difference. It's a hateful word either way. So that's why I tell people. Tracy Morgan, I'm not in the opinion thing. I don't know. I believe in freedom of speech. My thing with Tracy Morgan, the gay thing is one thing. My thing was stabbing a child. Just for me, I don't see where it's funny to want to stab a kid. I mean, I go back to that thing. I'd rather have a kid who was a flamboyant Versace and who was the toast of the world when it came to fashion and was rich. Right? Who can afford, that was my 401k. You are my little 401k, my little flamboyant. I'd rather have that than some kid who I would want to stab, or some kid who, who wants to kill themselves, or who can't be who they are, or who's, who gets HIV because they don't know about wearing condoms because they're pretending they're straight. Come on. Right. So that's my only comment. I'm not, and I say, if Tracy Morgan can use all of those platforms that he has to promote, something good, diversity or whatever, I say give him the chance to do it and see what happens. One or two more.
How has it been so different for you now since, of course? How has life changed?
That was a good question. It's amazing. My friends, it's funny when we go, I am now Don Lemon, gay icon. Don't you guys love that? Like Ben will say, what do you want to do? I'm like, come on, we can't go there. I'm Don Lemon, gay icon. I don't really mean that. It's funny. It's fantastic. I wish every person in the world could feel how I feel. I don't worry about anything. I don't care what people say. I am who I am. I don't have to worry about someone trying to set me up and me coming to they want to set me up with their cousin. Exactly. I don't have to worry. I'm gay, sorry. I don't have to worry about it. And I don't have to worry about someone outing me in a press conference. I don't have to worry about someone taking a picture of me and Blake's and saying, on a blog going, like they said, oh, I saw Don Lemon and I forget it's some gay bar in D.C. And I was like, yeah, I was there, it was fun too. But I don't have to worry about someone writing about that because people go, yeah, well, of course, he's gay. So I'm in charge of my own story. And I happen to think, I don't think it's bad to be gay. God made me this way. So, and I think it's good. I love who I am.
Yes, thank you.
I think Philip is going to call out for questions, right? Are you coming?
Everybody get their book signed.
All right.
Outright Bookstore and Coffee House features not only GLBT literature, but a wide array of great books in fiction, politics, style, entertaining, plus a whole lot more, like the best CDs and DVDs, ebooks, cards, and gifts. So visit them online or in person. Outright Bookstore and Coffee House.
We do need your support. We can get anything in print for you, be it books, CD, DVD. You can get it online at outrightbooks.com. You can get ebooks at outrightbooks.com. We have a lot of great events coming up. Terrence Dean next week on Wednesday night with Mogul. R.M. Johnson reading from the book that he and Elin Harris did their final collaboration on. That's on July 13th. Yeah. Tuesday, July 19th, we've got Scott Polson Bryant. He's the guy who wrote Hung. His new book's called The VIPs.
What's the book?
The book was called Hung, and we'll tell you, it's out of print. It was so hot. But he's a brilliant writer. We have Chelsea Handler on Friday, June 22nd. Let me tell you the story about that. We went to Chastain Park to sell books for her a few weeks back on a Friday night and got loaded up and set up, and she got sick as a dog. She talked about it every night on the show. She really got sick. But she's making it up to us by not only coming back to Chastain, but coming to Outright. And that is going to be on Friday, July 22nd in the afternoon. On Tuesday, July 26th, Sapphire, the author of Push, the movie that Precious was, the book that Precious was based on. So that we're doing in collaboration with St. Mark's Church. So there's a few things. If you want to know about more of these events, go to outrightbooks.com. Sign up and either register with our wonderful staff, and they can get you on a weekly email list. You can fan us on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter. Just any way you can support Outright. We're here every day for you, 9 a.m. to 10 p.m., 11 p.m. on the weekend.
I'll follow you, brother.
All right. And we're following Don. Once again, a warm round of applause for Don Lemon. Share the book with a friend. You've got more. You've got
That took the R out. You know what I'm doing, right? Oh, yeah. Is that all right? You want me to redo it?
That's all right. Everybody look up. Smile.
Thank you all for joining us for coverage of Don Lemon's book signing at Outright Bookstore and Coffee House. Let your location be known with Gay TV Atlanta on location. Whether you're having a social event, celebration, live performance, political gathering, press conference, contact us today. You're watching Gay TV Atlanta.
Welcome to the Dawn.
You're watching
Gay TV Atlanta.
Welcome